Hello and welcome to another Quick Flicks recap. Judge Dredd is an action sci-fi from 1995 that acts as if it was made in the 80s, with its over-the-top weapons, explosions, muscles and badass one-liners. It's loosely based on the comic books, too loosely for some comic book fans. Warning! Dredd takes off his helmet. The time and the place is somewhere in the 22nd century. The world has gone down the drain thanks to a nuclear war, forcing people to live in overcrowded megacities. With crime running out of control, a faster solution to deal with crime was needed. This came in the form of judges, or as Judge Dredd would say,
I am the law!
I need to start this recap with explaining a few things, such as the different types of law enforcers. Guards, they are in charge of handling prisoners. Street judges are the police, judge and jury all rolled into one. Basically, they can give you a jail sentence, blow up your car or execute you on the spot. They look very cool. But I'm personally going to pretend that their spandex is flexible Kevlar. Otherwise, their armor protection is quite ridiculous. Cadets, they are young trainees aspiring to become full judges. The Council of Five is the highest authority within the Justice Department, focusing on law enforcement and judicial matters in Megacity 1. Chief Justice is the leader of the council. SJS, short for Special Judicial Squad, are in charge of internal affairs, including bringing down rogue judges. This is the Lawgiver Mark II. It's DNA encoded, so only its owner can fire it.
Grenade. Signal flare. Armor piercing.
Full auto. Rapid fire. Double whammy.
The movie starts off with bringing prisoners that did their time back into the city. Fergie served his time. If I had to guess, it's either for living in a girl's body or bigelowing. Oh, but no, it's actually hacking. A guard checks him and lets him into Megacity 1. Fergie is glad to be back. He takes a taxi to his new home address. During Fergie's taxi ride home, he looks in awe of Heavenly Haven. The cab driver tells him, "In your dreams, buddy." The taxi lands in Sector 13, where Fergie lives. There's a riot going on. He passes by a food dispensing robot called a servo droid. It's offering recycled food. Recycled food? What is that? Oh, best not to wonder about it. Looks like Fergie's new place has some uninvited guests. They force Fergie to take part in the block war fun. Two judges that are fresh out of the academy are showing up to deal with this block war. They request backup, and they get it in the form of the most respected and feared judge, aka Judge Dredd. You can tell he's a real alpha male, with alpha male protection. And it's about that time he's going to dispense some street justice.
Grenade.
One of the rookies makes a mistake, which gets himself deleted, and spills his pizza all over the wall.
Full auto. Rapid fire.
Armor piercing.
Double whammy.
Judge Dredd tells the criminals all the punishments, which includes deletion for killing a judge, and then dispenses it immediately.
Court's adjourned.
Ooh, this is the hottie of the good guys, Judge Hersey.
Oh yeah.
Fergie managed to escape by illegally hiding in a servo droid, so he could avoid not being shot to pieces. However, Dredd judges Fergie to go back to jail for 5 more years. Hersey points out there are extenuating circumstances. Dredd replies, "He should have just jumped out of the window." In other words, the only thing worse than breaking into pieces is breaking the piece. At the council, the judges talk about the rapidly increasing of violent crimes. Judge Griffin suggests stricter laws. More fatal judgments means less people. Chief Judge Fargo points out that Megacity 1 with 65 million was built for no more than 20 million. Nonetheless, judges should stand for freedom, not repression. Meanwhile, with all the crime on the streets, there is plenty to report on for this news reporter. Warning, comic book purist, you're about to blow a blood vessel. Yes indeed, he just took off his helmet. Dredd goes to the Grand Hall of Justice. Fargo asks Dredd if 7 executions were really necessary. Dredd points out it was unavoidable. Fargo may be the highest judge, but he works behind a desk. Dredd himself has in fact the most street cred. Fargo requests Dredd to teach some ethics to the cadets next week, which is obviously not Dredd's favorite topic. He would rather teach weapons or hand-to-hand combat. Meanwhile, in Aspen Penal Colony, Warden Miller walks into a maximum security prison cell, where he disables the guarding Gatling guns via voice recognition. Miller wants to talk to an extremely dangerous man named Rico. Rico was a highly skilled but increasingly unstable and tyrannical judge. He was also Dredd's best friend, and Dredd was the one who brought him in for judgment. The warden hands Rico a package from a mysterious benefactor. Who can guess what's inside of it? Is it a bootleg video? A porno? Pokemon cards? No, it's a cleverly hidden gun. The warden, unaware he just sealed his own doom, asks, "What is the meaning of life?"
It ends.
The warden gets shot in the vocal cords. His voice can't reactivate the alarm, so the Gatling guns mow him down instead. This is why I always carry fisherman's friend. 2 more guards walk in. Rico sneaks up behind them and takes them out as well. Meanwhile, at the academy, Dredd teaches the cadets both from the lawbook as some cool gun features. The Lawgiver Mark II, 25 rounds with mission variable voice programmed ammunition.
Signal flare.
This lawbook may as well be called a Bible for Dredd. Dredd tells him, "You don't have a pension. You either die on the job or you take the long walk outside of these city walls into the unknown of the cursed earth, and there spend your remaining days taking the law to the lawless." Whew! Remind me to never complain about my non-existing pension plan. Hershey overheard Dredd's pep talk and tells him, "Life is not over once you become a judge. I have a life. I have friends." "Well, that's because you're hot, and the walk of shame sure beats the long walk." Dredd tells her he once had a best friend until he had to judge him. This friend's name is of course Rico. Rico managed to escape Aspen Penal Colony back into Mega City 1 using a body bag. How did he manage to do that? I don't know, but he is an evil genius and he has a mysterious benefactor. After his escape, he walks into a bazaar selling all sorts of discarded junk. He tells the guy, "You're holding a package for me," codenamed Lazarus. He picks up an ABC wire and a lawgiver. Lawgivers are DNA encoded, but Rico shows the shopkeeper that it works for him as well. Strangely enough, this city still has a working free press. Oh well, not anymore. It looks like Judge Dredd shot him, but there is a twist. He was not ordered to end this news reporter. It looks like this Lambo owner has a few too many tickets, and for that, Judge Dredd removes this man's PP extension.
Grenade.
Moments later, Judge Dredd is put under arrest for deleting the news reporter. While in jail, Judge Fargo visits Dredd and asks him a couple of questions. Dredd then asks Fargo, "Do you believe I'm innocent?" Fargo then replies, "Yes, I'm sorry I asked." This is in fact the most touching moment of the movie. All I can say is, if you love the law this much, why don't you just drill a hole in your law book and marry it? Dredd's trial begins with video footage, which still could be a deep fake because security camera quality still sucks in the 22nd century. However, the main argument is that the Lawgiver Model 2 is DNA encoded and it was Dredd's gun that was used. This is damning proof to judge him. Dredd's wife, aka the Law, betrayed him. Welcome to the club, buddy. Fargo concludes that both Dredges are homicidal. Yes, you heard that right. Judge Joseph Dredd and Rico Dredd are brothers with identical DNA. Judge Griffin tells Fargo, "We carefully buried the Genesis Project 9 years ago, along with Rico and all his victims. They will not learn of your involvement." Fargo believes otherwise. His strong friendly connection to Dredd will uncover all of it, and it could bring the government down. The only way out is for Fargo to take Dredd's sentence from death penalty to life in prison, which also means Fargo will have to take the long walk. The long walk for Fargo into the cursed earth is quite ceremonial. However, Dredd's sentence to the Aspen Penal Colony is not. Hershey breaks into Dredd's locker and finds a photo when Dredd was still a baby, and a photo of Dredd standing next to a person unknown to her. It turns out that the new Chief Justice Griffin has been working together with Rico all along. They want to cause more chaos and fear on every street. which in turn will result that the council will give Griffin even more power, so he can then restart the Genesis project. Dredd is using up his air miles for a one-way trip to Aspen. As luck will have it, he's now sitting next to Fergie. Fergie tells Dredd, "What are the odds? Two wrongfully convicted guys sitting next to each other. Or maybe it's just poetic justice." A family of hillbillies takes down the prison plane. The SDS show up at the crash site, explaining to Griffin, "We have some survivors." Griffin, on the other hand, wants no survivors. Dredd and Fergie are two of those survivors, and they are now hanging out together. The legendary Angel family walks in on them, introducing Link, Junior, and Mean Machine. Dad turns Mean Machine's knob to angry, but Dredd is able to free himself and takes down the whole Angel family. The SJS also try to kill Dredd, but they fail as well. This is partially thanks to Fargo showing up to the party as well. But Mean Machine is not dead yet and takes down Fargo, but for that he gets the electric chair. Meanwhile, Hershey has had Dredd's baby pictures analyzed with Photoshop 9000, proving that the picture is fake, which makes Hershey a bit confused. Fargo, with his final breath, tells Dredd that he and Rico are not born, but created from the finest DNA combined. It was called Project Genesis, and they were in fact brothers. Dredd's DNA and Rico are the same. It was in fact Rico who was able to use Dredd's lawmaker. It only took Dredd a few seconds to figure out what Fargo could not. If I was this old fart, I would die of embarrassment on the spot. Also, it's finally clear. It looks like Rob Schneider is not playing a Bigelow or a hot chick, but in fact, he is their sidekick. Meanwhile, in Mega City 1, Griffin introduces Rico to Dr. Elsa Hayden. She is the lead scientist of the Genesis project, and she is the hottie for the bad guys.
It's Britney, bitch.
Rico is taking out judges all over town. How? I don't know, but who cares when explosions are involved. Just outside the walls, Dredd and Fergie are trying to get back into the city. Dredd knows a way in. It's via the incinerator vents. It's actually quite simple. Just run fast enough. They only burst out flames twice a minute. Fergie wants to know if wearing that helmet all those years compressed Dredd's brain. Dredd explains we need to because there's a maniac loose in the city. Fergie agrees, but there's here one as well. I timed their run, and it's actually 30 seconds. This movie is a lot more realistic than people give it credit for. Judge Hershey almost gets taken out by Rico, but this is not the first time something wants to explode between her legs. The council now has a real crisis on their hands. There are not enough judges or even enough cadets to replace the losses. Just like in real life, those that create the crisis are coming up with the solution for the crisis. Chief Judge Griffin suggests to restart the Genesis project. The council voted and decided to unlock access to the Genesis project. Meanwhile, Dredd returns to headquarters and decides to borrow the uniform of a fellow judge. The central computer tells Griffin it takes only 8 hours to fully clone adult judges. This causes the council to get cold feet, so Rico decides to cool them off completely. Dredd hears the gunfire and rushes into the council room in an attempt to frame Dredd. Griffin then shoots himself and calls for help, falsely claiming that Dredd deleted the other council members. Dredd has no other option but to run. Fergie shouts, "I'm innocent!" But he does not want to argue with flying bullets. Dredd and Fergie proceed to escape using a lawmaster. A high-speed chase then takes place with lots of explosions, lasers and Gatling guns firing. And all of this is of course very, very cool. The unlikely duo arrive at Hershey's place. Hershey welcomes them in and tells them 108 judges died in less than 84 hours. Hershey then shows a fishy-smelling picture of Dredd and Rico. Rico then explains that Rico is my brother. From another mother. Test tube. The Janus DNA sample is ready for cloning, but Rico decides he wants to be a dad and uses his own psychogenes instead. Dredd and Hershey have a real heart-to-heart moment. Fergie barges in and tells them, "I can't find anything on Janus," but they deduct that a significant power source would be needed for such a project, leading them to head to a site of a recent power outage.
That's twice.
When a woman walks out of a bedroom with a big smile on her face and tells you that, you know Dredd is a real top G. In the lab, Griffin tells Rico that Dredd has escaped. Rico is not worried though, because the clones will soon be ready. Griffin just now realizes he made a mistake bringing back Rico. It was an expensive mistake, seeing it cost him an arm and a leg. In fact, all of them. Our three heroes found the Genesis lab, which happens to be hidden under the Statue of Liberty. The ABC warrior got a drop on them, and Fergie gets shot, and Hershey is about to play the damsel in distress, which forces Dredd to drop his shotgun. Ilsa thinks that the brothers look a lot alike. Dredd disagrees. Rico explains the only difference is you destroyed your life to embrace the law, and I destroyed the law to embrace life. Rico shows the clones, only 2 more hours before they are ready. Dredd asks Rico,
"You could never control yourself. What makes you think you can control these things?"
Rico wants Dredd to take control of them and offers him the position of head counsel. Dredd declines and offers to kill Rico instead. As always, the bad guy talks way too long and gives away all of his leverage, which gives Fergie the time to save the day by taking down the ABC warrior with a sneak attack from behind. This makes Rico panic and tells the computer to release the clones, even though they're only 60% done. Sadly, the clones never joined the fight, which is a real shame because look at them. Requesting the clones prematurely was too much to handle for the central computer, which results in blowing up the whole facility instead. However, we do get some girl-on-girl action. And Dredd and Rico are both very macho, with lots of bullets and punches and explosions, and a couple of one-liners that hit just as hard. Stuff like, "I never lied to you.
I'll be the judge of that."
Rico has Dredd on the ropes, but obviously the gun is out of bullets. Dredd may not have had the best armored clothing, but he does have the strongest plot armor.
Court's adjourned.
Then Rico falls screaming off the building. Now Ilsa wants to take her shot, but Hershey takes care of her. As our three heroes step out onto the street, a massive police force awaits them. One of them informs Dredd he is no longer under arrest, because the central computer broadcasted the Genesis Project plan after Griffin's death. Instead of rotting in jail, they now want Dredd to take up the role of Chief Justice. However, Dredd declines because he's a street judge. Fergie complains, "Oh, that's great, Dredd gets all the credit." And to put some more salt in the wounds, Dredd also gets the girl. The movie concludes with Dredd driving off like a total badass. Moral of the story? Laws based on lies should be exposed, while laws that are good for all humankind should be rules for life instead.